Hello and welcome to IABM TV. Today I'm joined by Russell Johnson, Director at Hitomi Broadcast. Russell, welcome to IABM TV.
Thank you, mate.
So, Russell, people know Hitomi for lip sync, but what other solutions do you offer?
Probably the easiest way to explain that is with an example. When people watch the news these days, you often see in the background, because it's quite fashionable, like some ITV and BBC News do it, you see the newsroom with all of the screens in the background, all of them with a slightly different feed on them, but some of them have got test patterns on. Test patterns are used when the feed isn't actually live, in the sense of somebody standing in front of a camera, but it shows you that there is a connection there. But all test patterns have a tendency to look the same. Hitomi makes a special test pattern generator. With our test pattern generator, you can put a text ident on it. So, for example, a reporter's doing a piece to camera from number 10 Downing Street. You can have on that test pattern, before the reporter stands in front of the camera, feed from number 10. And you just type that in and it comes on. We can also put idents in the audio. So the other side of a test pattern generator is the sound that you hear as well as the pictures. And in the sound, you can choose whichever tones you like, but we also have a speech synthesizer. So if you wanted the audio to say feed from number 10 Downing Street, you type that into our GUI and it would say with a slightly robotic voice, feed from number 10 Downing Street, which is kind of useful if the guys in the sound area haven't got any pictures to go with it. All they've got is a bunch of audio feeds and they want to know what's going on. So that's the background of what we do. You have a special test pattern generator, but it does an awful lot more than just that. Lip sync is the thing that you touched on. We can measure audio to video timing, but also audio to audio and video to video timing. So the principle of it is you've probably seen people tapping a microphone and going 1, 2 and all this sort of stuff, and somebody at the other end trying to figure out whether that's in sync or not. That's a really rough and ready way of doing it, and everybody's got their own opinion as to whether things are in sync or not. Our answer is to measure it. So we have our special test pattern generator replaces the person tapping the microphone with something a lot more precise, which is absolutely pure and known. And at the other end, instead of having some person looking, going, oh, I think it's a bit this way, a bit that way, we have what we call our analyzer, which is the eyes and ears. It's looking out for the special test pattern and it's listening out for the special test tones. It knows exactly what it's supposed to be, and the difference between what it finds and what it's supposed to be is the lip sync measurement. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Measures really accurately and it's very fast as well. It cures an awful lot of arguments that people have in the broadcast world. So take, for example, in America, we sell a lot of our stuff to the States. You can have a lot of people in the broadcasting chain, and if something goes wrong with the lip sync, they all blame each other. You're giving me a bad signal. No, it was all right when it left me. The answer is to prove it, to measure it and prove it. So our stuff measures when it's wrong, and it also tells you when it's right. It gives you that confidence that it's right. So people can prove, well, it was a bad signal before it got to me, or it was good when it left me. Look, here's my Hitomi report. I have measured it. And this is a really useful thing. In the broadcast world, with people who've got really expensive live events, take, for example, the Super Bowl, where the advertising rights for that are many millions of dollars. The last thing you want is for something to be badly out of sync, and for the people who are paying lots of money for those adverts to say, that's a poor quality broadcast, I'm not going to stump up the full amount for that. So it's in the advertising rights holders, sporting rights holders' interest to have as good quality as possible. And with our stuff, you can measure that the lip sync is absolutely spot on. So that's our lip sync, which we are famous for. But also we do audio to audio, as I mentioned. Why is that useful? I'll give you an example. In a concert where you've got people wanting to have a feel of the atmosphere, so it was recorded in surround sound, and you've got mics at the back of the auditorium as well as at the front. That gives a lovely feel, but most people don't actually listen on surround sound, they listen on stereo at home. So that surround sound gets down mixed, as we call it, to make a stereo broadcast. If the phase of the microphones at the back is different to the phase of the microphones at the front, it can sound like it's in a cave. It can sound really bad indeed and very, very echoey. So it's important to know what the delay is between your rear channels and the front channels. And that's what we measure with Matchbox. It's audio to audio. Another thing we do is video to video aligning up. And that's useful for ultra high definition broadcasts. Most people aren't doing a 12 gigabits per second link. They're doing 4 times 3 gigabits. So you literally slice the picture into quadrants and send it down little bits of wire. When you're trying to put it back together again, those different quadrants can have different delays on them. And it can be slightly different each time with a live broadcast. So we measure very precisely video to video timing. We can measure it to 1 pixel. So the right amount of delay can be used to line everything up. Video to video is also really useful for situations where you've got different cameras. So say, for example, in the motor racing, when a car comes past the bend to go into the pits, usually it will be a wired camera that's sitting at the track side. And wired cameras have very low latency. But for safety reasons in the pit lane, it's got to be a shoulder-held wireless camera. Wireless cameras have encoders on them, and they've got to be decoded, and that all adds extra latency. So if you're going from a low latency camera and then you do a cut to a high latency camera, if you haven't allowed for the difference, you'll see the car go past the same place twice. And that's clearly not desirable. So that's when measuring video to video delay is really useful. We send out our test pattern from the same sources. And at the other end, we've got up to 4 inputs on the analyzer. And we can measure very precisely what those video delays are. They then put it into frame synchronizer. Once it's adjusted, you can do a cut without worrying that you're going to see the car go past the same place twice.
So Russell, these all sound like really important and really essential solutions, but they also sound really technical. How easy are they to use?
It's really easy to use. So we've designed this from the day one for people who are going live in 5. They've got absolutely no time to be messing about thinking, oh, how do I do this over here? It's got to be simple. So we talked to our major customers right from the early days when we were designing the user interface to make it with something that they like the look and feel of. So for example, our analyzer, it puts out a copy of what it's received in. And on top of that live picture, we overlay the lip sync measurement. It's a really simple bar graph, which goes one way or the other to see whether the sync's early or late of audio compared to video. And it's green if it's okay. You get yellow if it's starting to be something you really ought to do something about. And when it goes red, it's really very noticeable to the user that something's wrong. So that's something you can just glance at when you're sitting in the master control room, and people get to know visually very quickly whether something's all right or not. So that's the major key element. But also we have a user interface, which is just a web browser. So anyone can dial into it and they get the same readings and a lot more information. So the engineers working on a broadcast would be wanting probably a lot more than the director or the people doing the vision mix. They just care about whether it's in sync or not. Mm-hmm. So you can drill down. There are different levels to which different users can do it.
Okay, and so I understand you've also launched a new app. So can you tell us about this?
Yes, we're very proud of this. So up until fairly recently, the measurements that we take for lip sync have been wired in. So our generator has to sit in a certain place, and from that backwards, you do the measurement of what you're trying to do. What we haven't been able to get so far is the same sort of thing as what I'm doing here. I'm doing a piece to camera. We haven't been able to measure the mics and the cameras, but now we can. So I've got an iPad here, and the app is called Glass because it's in front of the camera glass. And I don't know if you can see that in shot where it says Glass just there. So I'm going to start that up. You hold this up in shot. It makes a funny noise and a flash. And that is a bit like an electronic clapperboard. Our analyzer at the other end can make a lip sync measurement just from that. The app is absolutely free, so you can go onto the App Store now and download it. Just search for Hitomi Glass. Just put that in, and it'll be the first thing that it finds. You can install that on any iPhone or iPad. They will work. There's a license at the other end in our analyzer to receive it.
So, Russell, I understand that people can actually do a free trial of your glass solution. So, how can people go about and do this?
Yes, anybody who's got a Matchbox analyzer can register for a free month's trial. It's something that we introduced to help people who are particularly doing news coverage for the coronavirus stuff at the moment. So the app itself is free and will always be free, but the license on the analyzer we're doing a trial for that for 1 month. All they have to do is look on our website. There's a link there to register, or just drop us an email at inquiries@hitomi-broadcast.tv, and we will get back to them with a license. The only thing we need is the MAC address of the analyzer.
Sounds like a really clever piece of kit that will really help people.
It is very useful. So in the situations where, if we go back to the news reporter in 10 Downing Street, they could be having a different link today to what they had yesterday, and the delay will be different. So just before they go on air, they can hold their iPhone up in shot, and people back in the newsroom can take a quick measurement, say, yeah, that's all right, we got it. Or if it's off by a bit, then they can dial the difference into their frame synchronizer, hold it up again. Yeah, we've gone to 0, good to go. And it's literally that quick.
So plus, I suppose it also avoids having to have someone standing there going like that, and you then have to try and listen to it as well. Yeah. So it sounds like everything is designed to make your customers' jobs more efficient and easier. And you've mentioned a few of them there, but can you tell us a bit more about some of your customers?
Yes, certainly. So our customers are people who are principally handling live broadcasts, but we do have other people who use our identing solution, for example. That's often used in places which have got a lot of video feeds for conferences, parliaments, for example. They like to have many video feeds, and they all need to be identified. So our ident box, as we call it, is a high density test pattern generator. It doesn't have the lip sync facility, but that's a useful thing. But no, most of our customers are mainstream broadcasters, people you would have heard of. So in the UK, it will be the likes of Sky, BBC, ITV, BT Sport, and the facilities associated with them. So all of the OB truck companies who feed into them, the likes of Timeline, for example. And then we've got the people in the middle of the chain, for example, BT Tower, who often receive signals coming in and then send them on. They are a good customer for Matchbox. In America, we're very big. Probably one of our biggest customers is ESPN, the sports network. They receive feeds from many, many different trucks, something like 50, 60 different trucks. They have analyzers in ESPN, and the generators are on the trucks. In the news world, we have the likes of CNN, people like that, who deploy our kit worldwide. But also for music events, Viacom, who are the people who run the MTV Awards, they're a good customer. And at the MTV Awards, they had Matchbox generators and also glass. They did a field trial of glass for us. The director always suspected that his red carpet mics had a slightly different delay to the ones on stage. And he was absolutely right. There were 40 milliseconds difference, so he felt very vindicated that his magic ears had spotted the difference.
Okay, well, Russell, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
You can find out more about everything we've discussed with Russell today at hitomi-broadcast.tv.